Hello, and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I am your host, Rick Trimmer, and today we're going to jump into a conversation with a friend of mine. I met him a few years ago, 2 years ago maybe, back in Hawaii is when I was first introduced to him on Ryan Mickler had invited him on our Axis Hawaii bow hunt, and just a good dude. His name is Ben Dettamanti. I probably butchered that a little bit, but Ben, he's with Shed Crazy is his business, and just a good person, good dad, good husband, and just a good person to be around. He's one of those guys you want in camp. He's there to help. He's good vibe to camp, and he's funny. One of the funniest guys I know. Got a really funny sense of humor. We're going to jump into a conversation today and talk about, obviously his business and what he does, but how he started it and being an entrepreneur. So let's jump into this conversation with Ben and hope you enjoy it. But what I wanted to kind of dive in with you, because your full-time business is now Shed Crazy, right? You've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years. How long?
Yeah, I quit my full-time job 7 years ago. So I've been
7 years ago.
Yeah.
So kind of like what I was talking with Eric about, the thing that I admire, and I was just talking to Ricky about this, is one, entrepreneurs. Like being an entrepreneur is so scary. People don't understand what it's like to have, they want what we have and they want the lives we lead, but they don't realize those sleepless nights, those, refinancing your house and all the things that you grinding second jobs to get here. And so what I wanted to kind of start out with is, one, how did you get started? How did you get into where you are now? Kind of that timeline and that story. And then also kind of dive into what made you an entrepreneur? How did you find that? How did you dare do that? And then what even I respect more than just being an entrepreneur is you went into a job that you are passionate about that isn't you're basically a trailblazer.
Sure. Yeah.
So I know that's a lot of questions, but basically how'd you get started, Ben? How did you get going? You grew up in hunting?
Yeah, I grew up hunting. My dad is, my grandpa, everybody, that was like our big family time we had was we'd get together for the deer hunt and for the elk hunt. And so when we saw all the cousins and everybody and we'd go try to camp somewhere back when you could all get a tag in the same place, And so I always...
Over the counter.
Yeah, back when you could buy them at the hardware store or whatever. So my dad, from the time he was a little kid, they just would have these big elk camps. They would go over on the Dutton and just camp for the whole elk hunt. So it was like our together time. And so my dad was, he's a busy guy, he's a motivated dude, always was working hard growing up. And it seemed like the deer hunt was the time when we got to pull him out of that for a little bit and just go see who he really was. Go spend time on the mountain, watch him laugh and joke around, which he's just a different person when you're on the hill. That's how he is. And I love that about him. And so as I got older, I just thought, man, if I could just hunt more, my life would just be better. So I got really obsessed with hunting. Even more so, like right before I got married, me and my buddy just started getting really, really, really into shed hunting. And we started driving out to Nevada all the time to shed hunt. And
how old were you this? Like what age?
I was probably...
How old are you now? 35?
I'm
40?
39. I'm turning 40
30.
this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like mid-20s. Like I went on a mission and everything. After my mission, I came home and just kind of like had 5 years, 6 years of playing around. And I got really into shed hunting during that time. I had done it in the past with my brother-in-laws, but I got really, really into it then. And I started selling some antlers. And I thought, man, like I was just trying to do the math in my head and be like, could I find enough shed antlers to just not have a job and do this all the time? And you got to where they were, easy to find back then. You'd make a few $1,000, in a month of hard shed hunting. And I thought, geez, I could get by on this all the time. So the idea was kind of in the back of my mind, but I got married, which was great. Had a few little kids, and those kind of ideas just kind of like got pushed to the back because we were broke, first married, poor, and I was just working as much as I could to just keep...
What was your job? What was your job then?
So I was doing headstones and granite work with my dad in Cedar. So we owned that little headstone shop next to Brad's.
Okay.
And, I worked there for like 8 or 9 years, and it was a good job and everything. And, and at that time you could get by on making a couple $1,000s a month. And we just had, I had a little house in Cedar that we had bought, and it was good enough. We were just getting by. And as time went on, I started really kind of hating the idea of having a mortgage. Like, I hated having debt, and I realized I was stressing way too much, and I felt like I wasn't getting to hunt as much as I wanted to, or I wasn't getting to spend the time that I wanted to because of debt, basically.
Eric actually said, make sure he tells you the story about his finances. He brought that up in just earlier. So I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah. So, I just have always hated debt. I still hate debt. Like, we have a house now, and it drives me crazy to know that I have that amount hanging over my head. So, we were talking about it, and I started just kind of like decided I'd get another job just so I could start paying stuff off quicker. And I got a job where I would go clean a school at night. I would go vacuum the halls. And while I was at this job, I started listening to the Dave Ramsey podcast. And he's always motivating everybody to get out of debt. And, they're doing the debt-free screen when they get out. And I thought, man, that'd be really cool if we could get on some sort of a path to being debt-free. And got hyped up and talked to my wife about it a lot. And what we decided to do was that I would go pursue a higher paying career in order to get on that. But in the meantime, we'd start paying off as much debt as we could. So we started selling everything we had. I quit working for my dad, and I went to school to be a paramedic. I was going to be a paramedic firefighter in Las Vegas. I started down that path. So I went to EMT school and everything. And didn't really, I really liked it, but the career path going down that way, like I was pretty sure what I was going to do, but I don't know. I just, how it is. You dive into something head first, and after a while, you're like, I don't know if this is really for me or not. But in the background of all that, we were just working on getting out of debt. So I had 4-wheelers, motorcycles, a big, nice lifted truck, like a 3-year-old house. And I started selling everything off to get out of debt. And we had a little bit of credit card debt. We had a little bit of other unsecured debt. And we sold everything we had, and I still had like $27,000 in debt after it was all said and done. And so I started going to Nevada and picking up as many sheds as I could. And I would come back and sell them and use that money to pay off all of our debt. I sold a bunch of my rifles. I sold everything I could sell. And we moved into just a teeny little basement apartment, and we got 100% out of debt to where we didn't owe anybody a penny. And we started just stacking up savings, started putting money in the bank. I worked 2 jobs at that time while I was going to school. And we built up a really good savings. We got to where my wife didn't have to work anymore. She could stay home with the kids, and which was always a goal of ours along the way. And got to a point where we were really financially comfortable. We were living a really minimal lifestyle. We weren't spending hardly any money, but we got to where we had more in savings than I'd ever had before. And around about that time, this Instagram account that I've been building with my shed hunting started to take off.
How long was that timeline from, when you were a janitor or whatever, cleaning schools, heard the Dave Ramsey, to where you were out of debt? What did that take? Was that a couple weeks?
It really wasn't that long. It was about a year and a little bit altogether.
But that's amazing. People that reach out to me and they want my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I tell them what it takes, and they do it for a couple weeks, and they're like, bro, that's too hard.
It is hard.
That's hard, man. And I'm like, it is hard. It is hard. This is going to be months, if not years of dedication. So
yeah,
I didn't know that about you, man. I respect that 1,000%.
Yeah. Thank you. And the whole process was a couple years. There was a lot of just getting our heads in the right place and getting on board to where we knew that we were going to do it. But when we really buckled down and said, we're going to be intentional with every single dollar that we spend, we're not going to do the big trips. We're not going to do the big dinners. We're going to just buckle down for now. We started realizing, A, how little money we could actually live on, and B, how much money we actually had, and we were wasting just on frivolous things. So
that's awesome.
It put us in a place where we both felt free, like basically off of one income, which wasn't even a good income. I was able to support my family. My wife was able to stay home, and we were able to stack up a bunch of earnings on the side, like savings. So
I had a mentor, that always used to tell me, it's not, everybody thinks it's how much you make, and it's how much you spend. I have buddies that make $500,000 a year that are broke, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I'm like, what are you spending? And they go through their budget, and they're like, it's just horrible. But that's what people don't realize, is you can live well off of a smaller income if you tighten up. Everybody thinks you have to make money to have money, and it's like, no, you can really buckle down. And I think that's what I learned going through my situation, which is very similar. I Dave Ramsey changed my life. I didn't realize this. We talked a lot in Hawaii. I probably talked most of the time.
Boom.
But I didn't realize you went through this. So I'm glad to hear this, because I think this is inspiring for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people want to live your life now
Fair.
and go travel and go see all these beautiful locations and hunt. And they don't realize, and I didn't realize what you did to get here.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I asked you that. So keep going. Yeah. So let's hear it. So keep going.
Yeah. So we buckled down and we got to where we felt pretty good. And basically, I realized I didn't want to be a firefighter. I went and did some clinicals, spent some time at the hospital, did some ride-alongs and stuff. And I'm like, I don't actually think this is for me. And so, of course, that's not what you ever want to go home and tell your wife, right? Like, this dream that we kind of were grinding on for the last 2 years, like, I don't think I'm going to do it. But at the same time, I started getting some paid deals in the hunting industry. And I was like, man, I would rather be there anyway. So I locked in a little bit of income that I had coming in. We had enough savings to where I had a year of income put away. Like, we could live on our same budget for 1 year.
Yeah, I love that.
Plus whatever I could earn. And I was kind of delusional. I'm like, I can pick up enough money in Antler to support our family, which is not the case at all. Like, I thought I could do it.
And you had kids at this time? Like, you had a full family?
Yeah. So we had,
because that's the other thing people don't realize is, I've always been told, oh, you can do this now, but wait till you're married. Oh, you can do this now, but wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
You were doing it while you had all this responsibility.
Yeah. Yep. I had 2
So that's
at that time.
Yeah.
Little kids and all this expenses that come with that.
So little naivety, right? You're a little naive, but at the same time, you were confident that you had confidence in yourself to go grind it out.
Yeah. I've always had maybe it's like not, I don't know, maybe it's unjustified confidence, but I've always just thought if I dive into it, I can figure it out. And for me, it's like the sink or swim. If you fail in the United States, like, you're not going to starve to death. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, we have a good family and we have good resources in place to where if I was ever really, really down and out, there's people that would help me, and there's resources that I have the skills to go back to work and do granite if I need to, or, I framed houses, whatever I got to do, I can go back to work. So to me, failure just means going back to work. And that wasn't that bad anyway. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just decided to run with it. And I quit my job in 2021, 2017, January 21st, 2017.
So, okay. So when did you stop? When did you decide to stop being the fireman? What year was that?
That was 2016. I'm getting my 4-year blocks. My presidential elections are mixing everything.
It's a mess.
2016, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm doing
So pretty recent, not too long ago. So pretty recent. 8 years ago, right? Yeah. 8 years ago, you kind of said, hey, I didn't realize it was not that long ago. So 8 years ago, you said, I'm not going to be a fireman. And then you were saying that you started getting into Instagram. Is that when you started kind of getting into social media and stuff?
Yeah. So I started my Instagram like in 2013, but by the time I think I quit, I had about 20,000 followers on Instagram. And I basically was like, I'm pulling the plug. I'm going to just take this leap and try it. And that's actually when I got to know Eric really well, because he heard I was quitting my job to shed hunt full time. I put it on social media, and he got my number from somebody and called me. And he's like, dude, if you're going to do this, you have to do YouTube. Like, you have to show people the process of quitting your job, and they'll rally behind you. They'll see you take that leap.
Inspire them.
Best advice. Yeah. So I filmed me clocking out of my job for the last time, leaving to just go try and shed hunt. And at that time, I was putting out 2 shed hunting videos a week on YouTube, and people really, really got behind it. Tons and tons of support, tons of people buying anything they could. I started selling a few shirts, and they would just they really rallied. And it made it easy for me in the beginning to just kind of get my feet underneath me and get going.
So when was that? 2017? You actually clocked out and walked away?
Yep. January 2017.
What was that like? I need to go back and watch that. I'm sure it's still it's still on YouTube. Forever, right? Yeah.
It's one of my first videos I ever posted, but I go watch it every once in a while just because it's so surreal.
Absolutely.
And at the time, like it kind of felt like I'm just trying the next thing. And I wasn't that afraid, like, because, we had money in savings. I even had like some backup plans as far as work, like, people that are like, if you need a day's work here or there, come work with us, I'll give you a day here if you need it. And so I had some of that stuff in place. So I wasn't nervous. I was just excited. Like, and I remember waking up that first day where I'm like, I'm my own boss now, more motivated than I've ever been in my life, and just being like, all right, let's like figure this crap out. Let's go. And I started buying and selling antlers. I started flying in antlers, making YouTube videos. I started advertising. I mean, there's a camel company there in Hurricane that I went and folded camel for them and helped process returns, just anything I could do. And it really, like, when you have that level of motivation, stuff just kind of falls into place for you.
Well, and that's the difference for me as well when it's a passion.
Right.
You go do granite. It's like, yeah, you can do it, but you're not waking up every morning excited to do granite and headstones. But when you get up now and you get to go fly to, Maine and look for your 47th antler,
Right.
that's fun. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's a cool life.
Yeah.
So that's going to help you, have that motivation. But when did you move to Hurricane? So you were in Cedar. Why did you come to Hurricane?
So I actually moved to Hurricane to do a paramedic program at Dixie State.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did.
So that was before you had decided
Mhm.
to do the shed crazy.
Yeah. So I had done my advanced and my basic EMT through Southwest Applied in Cedar. And then I moved to Hurricane to be closer to Dixie. I enrolled in there.
So you was committed. I mean, you bought a house, right? You own the house, right?
Well, I bought one in Cedar, but I sold it. And so we just moved into an apartment in
You
Hurricane.
just rented in Hurricane. Okay.
Yeah.
So moved the family. It was a career. You were going for,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you really relocated.
Yeah. And honestly, like, if the way the paramedic program was, really is probably the reason I didn't end up going, because they only started the program every other year. And so I had a 1-year layoff between finishing my EMT and being able to enroll in their paramedic program. And during that year, I just got a job for the school district in Hurricane, and I had a ton of time to just kind of make videos and screw around. And that's when my Instagram took off. And
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. That's kind of a weird trajectory of life that could have gone a different direction.
yeah, for sure. So shout out to Washington County Schools, because I
Yeah.
made a lot of videos on the clock.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But thanks.
So started Shed Crazy. So how did you and again, like you and Eric, you guys are kind of the OG of this, right? I mean, like you were saying, I'm not big into sheds. I actually went in the recession, the recession. 2000 like 8 or 9 to 2012 probably. I would go shed hunting all the time. Do you know Micah Phi?
Yeah. I know Michael well.
I went shed hunting with Micah Phi all the time, and mostly I was just depressed
Yeah.
because I'd lost everything, my business. I'd go into work and there was no work at all. And he would call me up and say, "Hey, we're gonna go shed hunting." And I was like, "What? Like you're gonna go look?" I grew up hunting, and when I was walking along and I saw a shed, I picked it up because it was cool, but I never really thought of it as going out looking for them.
Yeah.
And he called me up, and man, we covered so much ground, and it was so therapeutic. I remember just putting in I had a little like MP3 player or something,
Mhm.
and just had my dog with me and Micah and Dave B, a couple guys, and
Yeah.
we'd go hit all the, standard spots, Utah Hill, whatever, up by Black Ridge and stuff.
Yeah.
And one day I found 18 sheds. That was my highest. I found 18 sheds out on Utah Hill.
That's killer.
And I had my backpack, all mule deer. And I gave them all to Micah. I was like, "Hey, I found 18." And he'd take every shed I found because I was just like, "Here, I'm not here for the sheds. I'm here for
Yeah.
the therapy of it." But back then it was a whole different world, man. Like you're saying, I never ran into another shed hunter. I never,
Oh.
So it was a beautiful thing back then. It was just a reason. I'm one of those guys where to just go walk around in the hills. I'm not like a big hiker.
Yeah. Same.
But if there's an elk at the top of the hill or the possibility of picking up an antler,
Mhm.
it gets me up there.
Yeah, totally, man. And I'm the same way. I don't no reason to hike at all. Everybody's like, "Oh, let's go for a hike." I'm like, no, if there's not a deer to see or a shed, I'm not going to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. And when we first got into it, it was like, you could find them anywhere. Like we would go, when we started going to Nevada, there was hardly anybody going from Utah out to Nevada to shed hunt. And there's this great expanse of space in Nevada. And we would go just pick a random hill and, you'd find 20. And it was
Wow.
just, it
Yeah.
was crazy like that. But, what's funny, speaking of Micah, man, Micah's a great dude.
He's a good dude.
One time I sheared a ball joint in Arizona. I was shed hunting. I'm like 7 hours away from St. George. Micah drove all the way down there, fixed it on the hill so I could drive it home.
No way.
Micah,
No way.
listen, bro, I still owe you about 10 more cases or something.
Yeah, man, he's a good person. I love Micah. He's just one of those guys that we call him Micah Guyver, right? Because he can fix anything
for sure.
But yeah, man, we had a lot of good times together, and it was funny because I remember back in that time I was out there shed hunting, and I had other buddies that golfed, and they were, from that background, whatever you say.
Sure, money.
I remember yeah. And I remember talking to him one time, and I kept saying, they're like, Rick, what are you doing this weekend? I'm like, I'm going shed hunting. And finally, one of my buddies named Sean from here local, he's like, dude, so what do you do when you find a shed? Do you like take a picture of it or? And I'm like, no, dude, I pick it up and bring it home. And he's like, you pick up the shed, like you dismantle it and bring it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, dude, like a deer shed, like a horn. And he's like, bro, we've been teasing you behind your back, all of our buddies, for the last couple years, thinking you're out in the hills looking for old abandoned sheds. And I was like, bro, and I don't know that it made it better.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude, I'm like, that's stupid. I pick up a deer horn, and he's like, is that better? Is that better? But yeah, it was one of those funny moments where all my other buddies apparently teased me for like 18 months because they thought I was out in the mountains walking around every weekend looking for like old sheds of like a building. So
yeah, well,
anyway, kind of a funny story.
That's funny.
But yeah, so I mean, jumped into the social media, got people behind you, and then off to the races, kind of, so to speak, and then quit your job and full-time, 7 years full-time.
Yeah.
Living your dream.
Yeah. Yep. It's been, consistent content on YouTube. I think I'm 500 videos or something I've done on YouTube over the last 7 years. And then
still do them every week.
Yeah, I kind of go on and off, like in the summer now, like where there's nothing. I still have a Hawaii video to post, and then one from our last shed trip, but I'll take a break through the summer now. And then I'll get back to like in the fall when I have good hunting footage, I'll make a video. But through spring and through the 50 states thing, it's been pretty much every week. Just kind of rolling with it. People like the consistency of it. They'll come back for it if they know there's going to be something new to watch, or come back once a month and watch everything you put up.
Well, and we actually had a meeting this morning for M42 over at Ryan Mickler's house. And Brecken was there. You know Brecken, his son. Yeah, you were in Hawaii with him, right? You know him. And we were talking about ideas for our social media for M42 and all these things. And he's like, dude, you should do something like Ben does. He's like, I watched him go from state to state and finding, he's like, oh, now he's in Maine, and he's like, I can't wait till he finds one in Maine or Hawaii, whatever. Yeah. That's such a, not only is it cool because it's unique and just a cool thing, like a cool bucket list thing, but I think it captured people to want to, like you said, see. I didn't realize that there was deer in every state. I had no idea. Yep. Rhode Island. I mean, Florida. I mean, I guess Florida maybe in the swamps or something, but it just surprised me. Was that pretty? I mean, we're kind of jumping subjects. Was that difficult? Was that harder than you thought? Easier than you thought? What was that about?
It was probably easier than I thought. Like I knew the travel would be expensive and time consuming. But like I figured I would struggle a little harder in some of those states. Florida was way tough. Like, don't get me wrong. We got our butts.
Okay. Is there whitetail down there? Is that what you're looking for there, basically?
Yeah. Yep. There's whitetail and there's key deer. Now there's some stuff.
I've seen the key deer. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are cool, but we figured there's nowhere public where you could go look for a key deer shed. It would be cool because it's such a different thing, like a goose deer kind of, but we looked at northern Florida. There's a lot of ag There's a lot of, I mean, even through the whole state of Florida, there's a lot of like hay and agriculture, citrus farms and stuff. The place where we ended up going was a public land piece. And the problem there is there's plenty of deer, but there's 2 feet of grass, and it never goes away. Like it grows and kind of dies in the next layer. So there's like
Folds over it.
yeah, they're buried. All the sheds are buried. So, but they do yearly burns down there in some of that public land. And so we started hiking some burned areas, and man, we saw like 15 snakes the first day we were there.
Yeah.
Gopher tortoises. There was, I mean,
Yeah.
it was wild. And we hiked the whole first day. And at the end of the first day, both the guys I was with found a shed, like both next to me. And I never count it unless it's me who finds it.
That's cool. That's
It was
cool.
way cool. And it was their first sheds they'd ever found when they were shed hunting. They each found half of a set basically on each side of me, which I was bummed because
Yeah.
I've flown there and hiked the whole day, but
Yeah.
got up the next day, went way back into another burn, and I ended up finding, like, I just found a broken base and a brow tine, but it was a shed. So I'm like, that,
Yeah, it counts.
I'm out.
Yeah.
So
That's wild. What
Florida
was,
rough.
so you went to Alaska, right? That was moose? Is that what you're
Yeah.
looking for up there?
Yep. Yeah. We went with my buddy Adam Granda up there, and we flew around in his Super Cub. And yeah, I mean, moose sheds, you can see them from the air. So we just spotted them from the plane and then GPS'd them, then we'd land and go get them. But that was a riot. That's like one of the funnest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, man. It's kind of weird because I've seen yours and Eric's videos of you guys up there. And that's the hard thing with social media. You know, when we were traveling for my 6 or 7 years of travel with my family, we'd find these little things. We found this town in Australia that had koalas in the trees everywhere.
Yeah.
We saw 8 koalas in one day, like up in the kids are playing at the school. There's a koala in the tree.
Yeah.
All these koalas. And we road tripped to Australia for a year.
Yeah.
And they're hard to find. And my wife started taking pictures and I says, don't post that.
Yeah.
Do not post that. You know, you'll ruin it, you know?
Mhm.
And so that's got to be a kind of a hard thing. Is that a hard thing for you to kind of juggle or, you know, fight with, where you're like, you know, this is going to change this? Because, and this isn't a loaded question or a second part to the question, but by exploding the world of shed hunting and making it so popular, you know, I believe you're one of the people that have done that. You're so big in that. Does it frustrate you now to go out there and, you know, now you have to have a season, you got to take a class, you're fighting with other people? Is there kind of like a love-hate there?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I always like kind of wrestled with the fact, like, am I riding the wave of popularity or creating the wave of popularity? And I think it's both a little bit, you know, like I think whether I would have ever made a shed hunting video or not, it would still be popular now. Just because I think it was a combination of people being starved for like wanting to hunt and, you know, the difficulty of hunts.
Yeah. Get in the mountains.
Tags. Yeah. Like looking for a reason to go do something because it's so much harder to get tags. But yeah, I mean, I always wrestled with that. And I always try to take the approach of like showing the whole experience and showing the days where you go and you don't find anything. And always being careful of like not showing backgrounds and blowing up spots. It's inevitable.
Oh, do you do that? You still do that?
Yeah. Like I'm very careful about not,
Are you?
like,
Okay. Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick minute and step away from this conversation and let you guys know of a few things we got going on. So as this recording comes out, I'm actually in Africa with 21 different individuals on an experience there in South Africa. Very excited. I'm sure I'm having the time of my life. Excited about that. I'll let you obviously stay tuned for all the content and all the things we're going to be doing. We're launching dates for next year and just cannot wait to get out of here and go do that. But I also wanted to mention our community. We were building our community, Genesis. It's going to be coming out here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully right when I get back. We'll start launching that, and we're going to do a 90-day free trial, get people in there and get feedback and let them know what we're doing. So excited about those couple things. That's all we really got going on right now. We're planning for next year. We got lots of stuff in the works. We're going to be announcing dates for lots of different events. Stay tuned. Our mailing list keeps growing. People are signing up for the newsletter, so we're starting to sell out things easier. And we appreciate that. And I also want to thank, you know, our sponsors, the people who have gotten behind us, donated money for Africa, for the orphanage, Order of Man, Origin. We've got a couple others that we're very, very close to working out. So Anyway, just want to give you guys an update on where we're at. Let's get back to this conversation, and thank you for listening.
And even now, like I tell states when I'm doing the 50 state thing, but like if I go to New Mexico, I'm not going to be like New Mexico shed hunting. You know what I mean? Like people can probably figure it out from the video, but I don't try to put places on blast. And if I
Okay.
go with people, I try to be very, very, very careful about their spots.
So you're still trying to
stand,
protect it. I mean, you can make content and still walk
yeah,
that line of protecting it somewhat.
yeah, and people do figure
Okay.
it out. They figured out from the videos, and there's no doubt that our videos are creating interest in the sport and making it more like difficult. Like that's 100% true. And I guess that's something like you just kind of have to wrestle with and decide whether it's worth it or not. For
Well,
me,
it's one of the
is
it's one of those hard things too where, I went spike elk hunting for I started 12 years ago.
mhm,
And when my boy was 1, and I've gone every single year. I missed last year for the first time, but I had a big bull tag. Um, but I was posting all these pictures and telling my friends, and it's amazing. You can get it over the counter and and all these things. And now they're all starting to do it. Now I go up there and I can't find any elk,
yeah,
where I hunt.
mhm,
And I never was really specific about where I went because I knew that was common sense. But at the same time, I would generalize and say it's amazing, it's fun, it's a way to get an over the counter tag and still get some meat.
mhm,
And now I go up there and it's hard to get a tag. They're talking about maybe going to a draw.
yeah,
And I'm like, man, I was probably kind of part of that in my own little world. But at the same time, big picture, it's like, you know what? It's getting more people out. It's, bringing more awareness to wildlife and more money to conservation.
sure,
So I think you got to just fight that battle of, like you said, I think it's inevitable. There's just so many people wanting to go do something that is, getting them outside.
sure.
And it's hard to explain, man. And you probably could explain it better than me, but when you turn the corner and see a big old, brown elk shed, it's wild. It's
Yeah,
wild.
dude, for me, it's better than like almost, it's better than killing a bull. And,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've seen it go through the same cycle with over the counter tags, where they get blown up, they get popular. Saw it happen in Colorado, Arizona, where they basically had to eliminate the unlimited tag systems because of non-resident popularity. I get it, man. And people want to hunt. Like, I understand. It also, it creates kind of like, I don't know, man. It's like, it creates a vacuum at the same time. Like if say shed hunting Nevada becomes super trendy and now everybody's going to Nevada to shed hunt or any place or Arizona, that means they're not hitting somewhere else. And like, I've had really, really good luck hunting places that became less popular. Like one example is a unit that I like to hunt in southern Utah for deer. We used to hunt the wilderness, and then the wilderness became really popular. Everybody wants to backpack. Everybody wants to go in. Everybody wants to do the big time overnight backcountry hunts. And when
Mm.
everybody started hunting the backcountry, all of a sudden we started finding big deer like off the road, and we started finding
Yeah.
deer down low where nobody was messing around with them. Like,
Interesting.
it just changes the demographic. And if you kind of know how to play the game, you can always just use the overcrowding somewhere to your advantage. Like with the over the counter elk, they're pushing those elk somewhere. If there's a million
Yeah.
people on the top of the mountain, those elk are going to be down in the low cedars or somewhere. And you just use that to your advantage to a degree.
Well, and my cousin, do you know Colby Adams at all? Adams Tile. Do you know him?
I know the name. I do know the name. Yeah.
He's a huge hunter down here. He's in that world, and he kills big bucks every year, even now. Even now.
Hmm.
And I honestly think that for him, and maybe I shouldn't say for him, I shouldn't speak for him, but for me, I see him kill a big buck now. It's a lot more impressive to me than it was 10 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
And these same guys, you see a lot of these same guys still finding big bucks, finding sheds. I see yours and Eric's videos of you guys going out there picking up backpacks full of sheds.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wow, these guys they're not just talking the talk, like you guys are adapting, because I guarantee there's people who are trying to go find sheds like you guys find now even more.
Mhm.
And for you guys still to be pulling those sheds out of the mountains
Yeah.
just shows that you're adapting and you're one step ahead of the game.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you get a chip on your shoulder too, to be like, to show people that
Yeah.
it's not ruined.
Yeah.
Like Eric, I mean, I think Eric had his best year ever on sheds last year or the year before, like
Wow.
ever. Like even since the heyday, he found more elk sheds, I think 2 years ago than he ever has his whole life. And it's
Wow.
like that goes to show you right there, like there's still
There's a
opportunity. Like you have to work for it, you have to earn it. And the barrier to entry is higher now than it used to be. But if you want to be successful, I mean, I've watched these kids grow up on Instagram, right? Like kids who were 15 asking for autographs, 10 years ago or 7 years ago or whatever. And now they're like in their early 20s and they're killing it. They're out there finding tons of antlers. They're killing big stuff. So the future is as bright as you let it be. And if you look for opportunities to be successful instead of complaining about how it used to be, you can go out there and find success.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's very well said. Eric was touching on that too, where he says, I actually didn't realize he started hunting when he was 21
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
later. And he says, these kids come up for an autograph that are 14, 15, they're like, you're inspiring me. And then I talked to him a few years later and they're out there shooting elk with a bow and, it's 16, 17 years of age. And it's like, that's, that's what we had a conversation about how I don't like filming. And I know you kind of fall into this camp when we were in Hawaii together, you and Eric were both there on different beds. And I walk into the room and you guys have, you know, enough camera equipment it looks like to film a, movie.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that is crazy. You guys bring mountains of gear. And I says, you guys must love it. And Eric says, I love it. And you're like, I actually don't.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel. I'm new to this world. I'm coming into it. And I kind of look at it as it takes away from my experience. But Eric shined a new light on it for me in my conversation with him, that he says, I look at it as I'm going to film these beautiful, cool, awesome moments. He says, I instinctively want to reach for a camera more than I do a gun or a bow. And then he says, and then I can capture that and I can share that with people who maybe can't, and I was telling him I was just in Alaska and I filmed us reeling in a big halibut and I had a family member reach out that can't even leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, that was awesome. I felt like I was there with you guys. That was amazing. I can never get to Alaska. I'm unhealthy. And thank you for that. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this can be a very beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about that? How do you juggle, having to film everything and being that content creator? Do you enjoy it? Or is it kind of a love-hate like it is for me, honestly?
Yeah. It's definitely a love-hate. I don't like capturing the content in the moment. Like, don't get me wrong. There's times where like I'll get a cool piece of video and I'll be stoked that I pulled the camera out or something. But like half the time I find myself like, I just wish I could put it down and go hunt.
Mhm.
And, but then it's like, I have to remind myself of the whole big picture, right? Like if you don't create the content, you can't spend money to go make
Yeah.
it. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
pay a couple $1,000 to go on a hunt and then not film it or else it's a
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then I'm always grateful after the fact that I did film. So like I'll
Okay.
find myself looking back on it and wishing I had the kill shot or wishing I had, I should have filmed when that storm came through, whatever it was. Then, so like I have a phone just full of photos and videos that I love to go back through and see all that. And then later on, you can utilize it for posting or whatever you want to do with it. But I love having that content. I hate being in that moment where I'm about to kill a buck and being like, oh shoot, I got to stop, set up my camera, and
Yeah.
get this shot. I hate that. Like I just
Me
want-
too.
And there's 9 times. I mean, if you go watch my YouTube channel, the vast majority, I'm not self-filming. They're not self-filming many kill shots. Like when
Yeah.
it comes down to that moment and I'm like, camera or kill it, like I'm killing it. That's it.
Yeah. That's how.
So,
Yeah.
but most of the kill shots on my stuff are filmed by somebody else.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I think, like we were kind of talking about, I think a lot of people want your life. They want to do what you're doing. And they don't realize the work and the effort and the, sacrifice that went into it. And so I think, uh, just watching you and watching where you're at and what you're doing, I think it's just so inspirational, man.
Thank
What's kind of your next step? Where are you going from here? So you actually moved, right? You're in central Utah now.
Yep.
You love that? That's a good spot?
I do. Yeah. It's a great little town. We just had our 24th of July day yesterday up here and just
That's probably a big deal.
it feels like Cedar City I grew up in. Feels like
Oh,
Cedar
that's
City
cool.
20 years ago, I just love
Yeah,
the small
yeah,
town vibe.
yeah. So what's next? What are you thinking as far as so Shed Crazy, you're I mean, we've talked a lot about this off camera and whatnot, but what's kind of your next what's your next endeavor as far as you got the 50 states done? Where do you go now? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I still have 2 more states I gotta get, so I'm
Oh, you
still
do?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
finish that. So we got Colorado, but I still gotta get Virginia and Louisiana. So I'll probably do something with those, like this winter, leading into shed season. But
Okay.
honestly, like, I don't know, man. I don't know where the brand itself is. Like, I've had a really good time with it, and I feel like we've done what I set out to do, which was make a living in the hunting industry. And I've
Mhm.
really kind of put myself into like maybe pigeonholed myself a little bit into the hunting or the shed hunting space.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't know, man. I would maybe like to do something that's a little bit more broad. I've
Mhm.
been a one man band forever. Like my little
Mhm.
brother worked for me a little bit, but this whole time it's just been me out here doing all this. And I would like to do something maybe a little bit more, or I had a little bit of a team or some buddies, or I've talked about bringing my kids in and doing some stuff with, more like teaching kids how to hunt and how to hunt with kids.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the next thing I do will be a little bit more group oriented. Um,
Mm.
it's just like,
Well, I like the sound of that. You know
well,
our conversations, you know.
yeah, I just feel
I
like,
think I love what you're doing, and I love so I'm gonna keep working on you a little bit. You're actually working with us now,
yeah,
right? You're helping us out with our
sure.
ambassador program and stuff. So
Yep.
just keep me in mind, man, because I love what you're doing and what you stand for. So,
I appreciate it, man.
but I think there's a huge niche for that. I agree with uh I'm taking my boys next Friday, right, to Africa,
Dude,
right,
it's awesome.
for 2.5 weeks, and uh so you can create it to where you can you know bring them along, and I think that would be a great next step because that's so needed.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think so far it's been like fairly selfish. I mean, obviously there's the goal of me providing for my family and I've been able to, but I just, with my time, I'm gone so much. And as my boys get older and now they can hike and keep up and they can go all day, it's to the point there's no reason to leave them home anymore. So I just want to find something I can do that will incorporate them a little bit more. And like, I'm a dude that craves solitude. Like I like to be alone. I can go be alone and shed hunt for a week and I'm cool. I'm fine with that. But there's times now where it's like, it would be fun just to have, maybe partners or,
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I don't know if the next thing I do will be shed hunting related, if it'll be hunting related, if it'll be something else, but I've at a pretty good point right now where I need to figure that out
Mhm.
and see what we're doing next. And I either do a full revamp of my brand, Shed Crazy, or
Mhm.
maybe move on to the next thing. But I don't know.
Yeah. And I know you got your hands in a lot of other, all in, right? You're
Mhm.
working with them and a lot of
Yeah.
different things and different sponsors and partnerships. So,
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure after how long in this industry? How long you've been doing it then? 10 years?
Yeah. I've been dabbling in it for like 8 or 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I'm sure you've made all those contacts and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and I know that I'm courting you, so we'll see where that ends up. Um, so you came to Hawaii the last 2 years. Eric says he's coming out next year.
Yeah.
We're gonna move those dates to the end of June. Walk me through that. I mean, as far as are you is bow hunting your passion? Is that where you kind of fall, or do you do any other type of hunting? Are you good? Because actually, you went to Hawaii right after my Hawaii trip,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. I went back with
You
right.
did a giveaway
Uh huh.
through Shed Crazy
All
and
in. Yep.
Hushin and all them and all in.
Yep.
What was that like? The difference? What was it like? Was it just
Oh, dude.
like we would assume, fish in a barrel?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. Like if you want to kill big deer, it just changes the game a little bit. Like where we hunt, you're chasing them with a bow, the level of difficulty is so much higher. And if you see a good buck, like you're shooting, right? No questions asked.
Yeah.
And here it's like you could kill 5 good bucks a day, but like
Mm.
you kind of want to shoot for that next level or whatever. So it's just a different ball game.
Was the land different? I know
Oh,
where we hunt, it's
100%.
like Africa. Did
Yeah.
it feel like you were in Hawaii over there?
Yeah, it felt like I
Some
mean, we were on
grass.
farms, man. Like it
Oh,
was like,
wow.
yeah, like
Wow.
there's roads, there's planted trees, there's plastic down. Like a lot of it was farms, and then a lot of it was really open yellow grass, and the deer would be in little pockets and draws, and you just kind of hike and shoot them. And I shot 4 deer. I could have shot 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to the point where I'm like, that's probably good. I shot one littler buck and one really nice buck, and
Yeah. You shot a good buck with us. You got that.
Yeah.
That was your first buck, right?
yeah,
And
Yep,
that's
that was. God.
it's really cool to
Pause
kill
here.
something with a bow. Those are hard little buggers.
Oh yeah, sorry, I kind of glitched for a second there, but
You're good.
yeah, that was my first Axis ever. Was there with you guys, and
Oh, was it? I didn't realize that. Oh yeah, yeah. You didn't get one the year before, did you?
no, I didn't. So
I forgot about that.
I passed some opportunities on does trying to kill bucks and stuff, but I went back this year in kill mode. I'm like, I'm not passing any chances. So, but I was really
Well,
happy
and
with how that one
I
played.
like the video you just posted. I don't know when it was, a week or so ago, where you showed your misses.
Oh yeah, those little suckers.
You know, and I like
Yes.
that. You know, because that's reality. You know,
Yeah.
people don't understand. You know, you can have the perfect shot and everything works out, but you're shooting at a target that jumps and
Right.
spins.
Ducks.
And
Yep.
so that was pretty cool for me to watch. I didn't realize you didn't show me those when we were over there.
No,
You said
yeah.
you'd missed a couple of those, but once you posted it, I'm like, dude, those are sweet.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. Like, you never know exactly what happens with these deer. You're trying to figure it out. When I came home and watched the footage, I'm like, I would have smoked both of those deer, but they just dodged me.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of validation too. You're like, I put the arrow where I wanted it. The deer just was 6 miles away by the time the arrow got there, because those things are fast. Man.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, are we good, Ricky? It's kind of breaking up a little bit. We got yeah. Is it good on your end, Ben, or is it kind of
Yeah, it's
scattering a
fine.
little bit?
It's fine now. It glitched a minute ago, but it's fine now.
Okay, mine's glitching just a hair, but Ricky's looking at it. So let's see what else I got for you here, man. I have so many questions that I can just talk to you forever about hunting and things like that, but I want to dive into a little bit more into so your dad was an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, in a lot of ways he was. Yeah, he had different jobs at different times, but he's always a hustler on the side, always.
And so is that where you think you kind of get where you get that from, is just kind of seeing him and what he's done and wanting to take these chances? Or where did you get that, desire, or that, what drew you to this life? Because a lot of people can't live without that 9 to 5.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I definitely got some of it from him. He was always really smart, and like, he would see opportunities in markets that other people weren't taking advantage of, and he was willing to put his eggs in that basket. Like, just like like quick example, when I was a kid, was a lumber salesman for Anderson Lumber in Cedar.
Okay.
So he always kind of knew what was going on with the lumber market. And randomly, one year in the spring, he saw a super low price on OSB, basically on sheets of plywood, and lower than it had been. And it was supposed to be a bad hurricane season that was coming. And so he took, I don't know if he had to borrow money. I don't know if it was money that he had saved, but he bought a train load of this OSB. And he
Wow.
shipped it in to Cedar, and they put it in a warehouse in Cedar, and he sat on it through the whole summer. And then when hurricane season or whenever rolled around, the price went from like $2 a sheet to $9 a sheet on all that.
Wow.
And so he just sold it all and made a big, a giant flip. I remember him coming home and having a booklet full of $100 bills, like they put them in the checkbook. I remember throwing it to my mom, and my mom just crying.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. My first business was United Wood Products.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I followed the lumber and all that. And that's gutsy, man. I've
Yeah.
wanted to do that and thought about doing that, never did it.
It's a big risk. To play in those markets, but like,
It's a commodity,
Yeah.
you're gambling, but if you that's gutsy, man. That's
Yeah,
ballsy
it
right
was
there.
cool.
That's cool. That's cool.
I thought that was a cool flip. And he was always buying property. Now, like, he's retired, and basically he turned his whole retirement into real estate, and now he's kind of selling through some of it, and it's all, gone up in value so much. It's insane. It's awesome.
Well, that piece you showed me up in Cedar, man, is amazing. I still need to get up there and check it out. Has he sold it yet, or?
No, he has kind of a guy that's trying to buy it right now, but it's still still available.
Still
as far as I
available.
know. Yeah.
I'm going up to Beaver Mountain this weekend to camp.
Hmm.
and maybe I'll try to swing by and just look at it and
Yeah,
check it out because yeah, that's a beautiful piece.
it
But
is. It's crazy once
y-
you get up in there and see it.
yeah, yeah. I actually, yeah, that's I didn't know. Were you born in Cedar?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so was I. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a
I
good
didn't realize
place.
that. So
Valley View
it
Medical
is.
Center. What's up?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't even know the name of the hospital, but I went to North Elementary.
Oh yeah,
I know
North is
that.
down there kind of in the slums, man.
It was pretty rough, bro. It was pretty rough.
Oh
Yeah. Have you I just went by the other day and it's like this big old fancy new building and I'm
yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
know, it's crazy, man. Cedar's blowing up like you said. It's just not the same at all.
No, I don't even like going back there hardly anymore.
But I bet Fillmore's still I bet it's growing,
Yeah.
respectively as too, isn't it?
A little bit, there's every year there'll be a few townhomes or something pop up, but I mean, we still don't have a stoplight, so we're in good shape.
Oh, you don't? There's no stoplight there?
Mm.
Oh my heck, yeah. As soon as you get that, it's all downhill from there, right?
Right? Yeah.
Well, man, I think I've got pretty much, all my questions answered. How do people reach out and contact you? What's the way that they reach Ben? Your last name is what? Dettamanti?
Dettamanti. Yep.
Dettamanti.
Yep.
That's a wild last name. So you're Italian,
Yeah.
something, right?
Yep. Yeah. My
So
great grandpa, his family came from Italy, like when he was a little
your
kid.
dad's dad
Yeah. Well, my
and
great grandpa, my grandpa
your
was
dad's dad's
born.
dad.
Yeah. Yep. So, but yeah,
That's cool.
then my dad's pretty much almost full Italian. So I'm like a half or something.
Your dad is?
Yeah. Yep.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Cedar City. How that's a whole nother
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. How did they get to Cedar?
Right. It's a long story, but my grandpa was from California, Santa Barbara. And he bought that headstone business there in Cedar from his buddy who had moved up and started it a few years prior. And that's how we all kind of landed.
That's rad. That's
My
rad.
grandpa's from Panguitch. So,
Look at that, man. That you could have been a Californian, right? Pretty
oh,
close.
man, that's
It
close.
just missed you.
Yeah. Dude, it nicked me a little bit.
Dude, it nicked you. It nicked you. Yeah. What's that guy? Dude,
Yeah, hit that.
that's one of the funniest skits I've ever seen in my life is that like 5 minutes, dude. I'm like, that is genius.
Yeah.
Dude. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. So Shed Crazy,
Mhm.
they can find you. I'm go ahead and tell them.
Yeah. Shed Crazy on Instagram, Shed Crazy on YouTube. The two main places. I have a Facebook page. I don't do much over there, but yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, there's an email button that's in my Instagram bio and it's really easy, or else I answer my Instagram messages somewhat, not always. If I get doing other stuff, they might get lost in there. So if you send me a message and I don't answer, hit me back. But yeah, those are the places.
Well, awesome, man. If you get down southern Utah, hit me up this fall and we'll put you up in my cabin. I'd love to have you come down and hang out for a bit and get to know your family better and let our kids play. They're similar ages. So
Yeah, they'd have fun for sure.
I appreciate your time, man. Again, I'm inspired by you. I love what you're doing. Thank you for helping M42 with your what do you call that?
I don't know.
I don't know, some fancy word, but your
Yeah.
help. And appreciate you taking your time to come on here, man. And thanks for everything, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Had fun and appreciate you taking care of Hawaii for us. That's always fun.
Yeah. You coming next year? You in?
If the invite's there, I'll take it 100%.
It's there. We're gonna move it. Probably we're gonna move Africa to the 1st of June. So I think we're gonna do end of June or 1st of July. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that actually works better for Eric. He said anything towards July or July is better for him. So
Yeah.
I think that's what we're gonna do, and that way we can get to Africa a little sooner than August next year.
Perfect.
Okay, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for
Thanks,
coming
dude.
on, and talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right, so there you have it. That was my conversation with Ben Dettamanti, with Shed Crazy. Obviously, a great conversation, good person. I loved hearing his story. I had no idea. We've had a lot of really deep conversations, me and Ben, up in Hawaii this last year. And obviously, I'm trying to get him to come over to M42 Adventures, either a partnership or, he's mentoring us right now on the social media ambassador side. So we've already got him a little bit, but I'm trying to bring him more over because he is just a good person, somebody I'd like to be around more, and who can bring a lot of value. So great conversation. You heard in there his struggles and what he's gone through. A lot of people see the results, see Ben living this life where he's, got a stay-at-home wife, traveling, doing all these cool adventures, hunting, basically living most people's dreams, at least here in, Utah. And we don't hear the sacrifices that these people went through, and the, you know, for him and his wife and his kids to go through the struggles that they went through to get where they're at now. People don't understand that. And so that was a great conversation, very eye-opening for me, just makes me respect him even more than I already had, which was a ton. So hopefully you got some inspiration behind that. If you're in debt, if you're struggling, if you want to start a business, listen to this episode, take it in. Like we said in there, it doesn't take weeks. If you're in, depending on the situation, it took me 4 years. It took Ben 1 to 2. But you can get there. You just got to change your habits, make the sacrifices, get on the same page, set your goals, and you too can live a wonderful life. We see these people on Instagram doing things and living, me traveling the world, or Ben living the way he is, or some of these other people that I've interviewed that are just living lives that even for me 10 years ago that I thought was not possible. And they are. You just have to find them and listen to what they say and then apply it. So great conversation. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. If you want to reach out to Ben, you heard the ways to find him. He's on Instagram, Shed Crazy. Just a great person. And thanks for listening. Please like, share, follow, and stay tuned next Friday for our next episode.